Let's talk hair.
You are live. Yes, thank you. Thank you. And we are live. We have, you all know how we roll. So, welcome to Let's Talk Hair. I'm your girl who gives you all the tea of a lifetime about hair care tips and everything. We are out here at another event with Deserve, where we're actually celebrating a lot of vendors, food trucks, and everything. So, me and my special guest apologize for the noise, but we want y'all to be into us. And so, but we're having a great time, and I'm so excited about this guest. She's from Virginia, and she is a real live. I'm not just saying she is a nurse, but she practices. She is a trichologist, and she does holistic. She has her own product line. Um, she is all about hair growth, and she's all about following a system, and that's what she does. Her name is Miss Abolore, and she is an RN, but she wants to tell you more about herself. But we have so many questions for her, and we have so much, but we have to, you, my guest, welcome her. We want you to welcome her, but we also want you to ask her some questions. She does have, she charges for a lot of this. So
Yeah.
what you, I mean, that's what it is. So I want to welcome none other than Miss Abolore. Come on, we want to welcome her. Thank you for being a part of Deserve. Tell us, can we get you to tell us who you are and how you got started, and then also the testimony of what you went through?
Okay. Thank you for having me, you guys, on Deserve. I am Abolore. Last name is Adekoya. I am a board certified registered nurse. I have been a nurse for 20 years. I am a Baltimorean. So if you hear a little bit of slang, it's because I was born and raised in Baltimore. A lot of people will ask me the origin of my name. My dad is from Africa. My mom is American, and thus, but the origin of my name is Yoruba and it's African. But my story happened like any other person, and actually, my story is unique because of my experiences and the things that I've gone through in life. I birthed the Trichology Nurse Suite. So back when I was about 16, I would say 16 or 15, I had a bout with an issue called Seborrheic Dermatitis. Most of you don't know what it is, but it's basically a condition where your scalp just overproduces sebum, it's itchy, it's inflamed, it's red, and basically you just scratch so intensely that you wind up losing your hair because of the constant scratching. So my mom took me to the dermatologist. I received injections. I had to wind up getting several inches of my hair cut off. And this was back in the 90s. So I was in high school at the time. So I was devastated, of course, because I had to get my hair cut, but I rocked it in true fashion because at the time, this is when Halle Berry was popping, Anita Baker was popping, and they were rocking the short hairstyles. So I recovered successfully, and thus I moved on. So then again, when I was 28 and I had my son, I experienced hair loss the second time with postpartum shedding. Now, at this time, I had officially been a nurse. I had graduated school, but what they don't tell you in nursing school is how to care for hair, because of course it's not a cosmetology school, it's not a natural hair care school. They tell you you're going to experience postpartum shedding. Every woman who gives birth is going to go through it sometime or another after she has her baby. So I went through that. I was devastated. It was intense. I hid it from, my husband. I hid it from my family. I had another, instance where I had to go and get my hair cut off again. That was the second time. The third time was when I hit about 34, 35, and I started losing my hair again. This is now what I contribute to hormonal hair loss, the change in life. But this is well after I started digging for myself and going into hair care and trichology. So in 2017, I spent 20 years in ICU nursing and community health nursing. It was in 2017 when I no longer wanted to work on the floor and I wanted to transition. And because of my experiences and my love of beauty, and I didn't go to cosmetology school at the time when I was younger because, of course, like so many African American people, our parents pushed college. If you didn't go to college, you essentially wasn't going to make it in life, not realizing there are many other opportunities that we didn't know exist. And my parents didn't know. They just knew you had to go to college in order to make it. Cosmetology was not a field at the time that was considered professional. So I didn't go to cosmetology school, but I always carried the love for it in my heart. So in 2017, when I started transitioning out of nursing, the actual hospital part, I told my husband I needed a way to not lose all of my nursing knowledge, but branch that into hair, the love of hair, the art of cosmetology mixed with the science of nursing. That's when I started digging for myself. I started exploring hair schools, cosmetology schools, hair loss, just things that excited me, aromatherapy. And it wasn't until the third time that I actually started using more aromatherapy practices to grow my hair back. Because again, I didn't know. Just because I'm a nurse, they don't teach you aromatherapy in school. They don't teach you how to come back from hair loss. They don't teach you these things. So it took about 2 years before I was able to successfully bridge the gap of nursing and cosmetology. And in 2018 was how I formed the Trichology Nurse Suite. And my center is here. I'm here now. And it was my own personal testimony that I hid from my family that prompted me to open up a hair loss center specifically dedicated to people who are struggling with hair loss, especially minority women, African American women, because we're always taught our hair is our crown and glory. It is to a certain degree, but not to the point where you should be losing hair and you have to have it. So that was how my story began.
That is, oh, you got somebody watching. Candace Adams says, "Good afternoon, ladies." Hi, Candace.
Hi, Candace.
Um, thank you, Candace. But this story is a book as well. That a lot of I've stayed in my lane, like you're in your lane. Uh, we love hair loss, um, and I just everything that you said. I'm like, there is more to this.
It is.
There's more to this, and you're writing your chapters. So I want to tell everybody, y'all give her a warm hand clap. Oh,
Thank
give her a
you.
warm hand clap
Thank
because
you.
you deserve to be honored.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, and we have Terrell Patterson. Uh,
Hi, Terrell.
Now Terrell is from Arkansas. She's a distributor and salon owner for Ebony Expressions, and she has Deserve Professional Hair Care Products is her main product. And so Terrell, thank you so much. Terrell may be asking questions. So she may be asking anything. So
Ask,
Terrell, yes.
ask away. I don't hide anymore. I had hid it for so long that I'm not ashamed to tell my story because this is who I am. This is what I've built my trichology practice on is literally my story. So ask away.
Okay, she will. uh, Tell us what we'll be talking about today, so we can get everybody to get a good understanding of what um, uh, we're talking about dermatitis, is it cerebric or um
Depending on what side of the United States you're on, it can be called seborrheic or seborrheic. So you may hear it pronounced two
seborrheic?
seborrheic or seborrheic. Just depends on what side of the United States or the country you grew up on. Everybody pronounces it a different way. I grew up on the East Coast. We say seborrheic. That's so if you hear me say it, it's seborrheic or seborrheic. It's the same thing. Um,
Okay.
it's it's almost similar to it. What it really is, it's not considered autoimmune. It's an inflammatory condition of the scalp and the sebum within the base of the hair follicle.
Mhm.
So everybody, you, the listeners, the viewers, myself, we all have hair follicles. Each and every hair follicle has sebum. So sebum is produced. It's our normal lubrication of the hair oil that grows. It comes with the hair strand, I should say, to make it easy without confusing people. So it basically it lubricates our hair strand. Well, some of us, for some unknown reason, the sebum oil just all of a sudden reproduces at a faster rate than it should. It could be genetics, it could be something we ate, it could be stress, it could be medication, it could be the season, it could be a number of things that causes the hair follicle or that genetic component to say, hey, we just want to start producing more oil. But we have no idea why. I liken it to a child who starts acting up for no reason. They're just sitting there and all of a sudden they just start yelling for no reason. For no, but it's essentially like that. And the hair oil, it overproduces. It sits on the scalp and hair. As it sits, it dries and it forms a thick yellow waxy coating on the hair and it adheres to the scalp. So it's different from dandruff. It is different from psoriasis. Typically, dandruff is very light. It's really flaky. Most people know it kind of resembles flour. It's just real light. You can easily lift it off the scalp. With psoriasis, it's a little bit more. Most people know if you have psoriasis, you have the plaque. The plaque is white, it's a little thick. With seborrheic dermatitis, the crusted like layer that's left on the scalp is thick and it's yellow. It almost mimics a yellow waxy substance that just adheres to the scalp. When I was growing up, I felt it. You know, I didn't know what it was at the time, but I would always scratch. And when I would scratch, I would be lifting the crust like something off of my scalp, and underneath my hair would be wet. Well, that was the oil. That was the excessive oil. And as again, and it's a cycle. So as I was lifting the crust, the oil was still there. So what am I now doing? I'm adding another crust underneath the crust that's already there. So it's a condition where you don't know you have it. You don't get it from it can be genetic, I should say, but people don't know that they have it until they experience it. So nobody in my family that I know, not even on my mom or my dad's side, neither one of them have this condition, but I do. My brother doesn't have the condition, but I do. So for me, I don't know why I have experienced dermatitis. I just know that I had it. It is treatable, but however, you have to get it. You have to get a consultation to know what we're dealing with. So with this specific condition, it's an oily substance, as I stated. It enters the scalp. It doesn't typically bleed. If you're experiencing bleeding, it's because you scratched your scalp and you opened the skin. The scales, they literally, I remember my mom sitting and she would scratch and she could take the comb and just lift the layer up of my scalp.
Can I
And
ask a question right quick?
yes,
In my experience, especially if someone has some type of psoriasis, if if it doesn't have moisture mixed in, if it's dry, you can lift the follicle out. You can lift that hair rather.
You still can lift the hair with seborrheic dermatitis because
Okay.
there are instances where, again, us not knowing what it was, my mom not knowing what it was, sometimes she would lift and my hair would still be attached to the flake. And I'm gonna say flake, crust, flake for
Yeah, yeah.
she
I'm
was
itching now.
yeah, you can still see it. So I think because it adheres, it adheres to the hair strands as well. So even with the clients that I see now, when I put them under the microscope, I just had a client last week who came and I showed her exactly what happens as the oil is drying, it's sticking to her hair strand.
Mm.
And she said, yeah, when I'm combing my hair, the strands will come out. And she said the big, huge flake would be attached to her hair strand. So it can come out because you have to remember when it dries, it's sticking to something. It's either sticking to the scalp or it's sticking to the hair.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to come. I mean, most oftentimes it doesn't typically. It only comes out if you're doing damage because you're constantly going in and scratching and lifting the hair,
Mm-hmm.
or you're constantly taking your fingers and you're scratching the scalp, which was me and my mom. We were doing double jeopardy. As she was scratching and pulling out hair, I was also scratching and pulling out. So I was doing the double whammy, not realizing what was happening. So you can lose hair that way because you're scratching and because you're taking a comb and you're literally lifting or pulling the hair strand with the flake. So yes, you can. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Typically in my research, and because I'm heavy on this, because this is something that I deal with, and I keep using myself as a patient because once you have it, you always have it. You can never get rid of it.
So
You
there's nothing you
there's
can
no
do, but you can put it in remission, or you can
you
just
just manage it. You
manage
manage
it.
it. Yes, you manage it. And I say this because in my research, before this, you and I were talking about today, my allergies are horrible. People who have allergies, asthma, eczema, any type of those inflammatory issues are prone to seborrheic dermatitis because it's in that category of quote unquote inflammatory issues. So anybody who has an allergy, you can be predisposed to seborrheic dermatitis because it's a connection as it being an inflammatory issue. So for me, I'm the only person in my family who suffers with allergies. Again, there's my connection. My dad has asthma. I have it. There's the second connection. So again, as I'm doing research, it's so connected to basically a lot of people who have allergies and asthma, people who have allergies to nuts, seasonal allergies. That seems to be the connection to people who suffer with seborrheic dermatitis. However, depending on if you're using chemicals, certain hair products, styling can also create this issue.
What are
But
those products that is it products with a lot of alcohol?
yes, is
Okay.
anything for, well, it depends. For most people, it could be the products that are highly concentrated in alcohols, or it could be people who have nut allergies. So a lot of people like shea butter. If you are a person who's allergic to nut allergies and you may be sensitive to shea butter or coconut oil, you may develop seborrheic dermatitis if you're using that. You now take this with a grain of salt. You may or may not. It just depends on how your body reacts to it because everybody can't tolerate coconut. Everybody can't tolerate shea butter. So for me, I find any product that is heavily concentrated in alcohols is a key for me. And then also the weather. This time of year on the East Coast, where we're now transitioning from summer to fall to winter, is the worst part for me. This is a time of year where I now know I can have a flare up. This is where I tell my clients who are experiencing, if you started noticing your scalp is itchier, you're noticing a little more dryness, it's something weird is going on. This may be your trigger. So for me, you have to learn your triggers in order to control the condition. So again, using me as a patient, I have to monitor this weather now that we're going in, meaning I have to do more hot oil treatments. I have to make sure that I deep condition. I have to do things that will keep the inflammation down so that it doesn't start to develop the overproduction of sebum.
Okay, you have a question.
Yes.
Terrell wants to know, what are some things you can do to manage? And I know you just said hot oil treatment, and but she's asking, what are some things?
Internally, so everybody is different. We all are going to have different triggers. Some of us may have the same triggers. Some of us are going to have different triggers. I have clients now who weather doesn't bother them, but if they eat a lot of dairy products, this may be an issue for them too. Because what you have to remember is seborrheic dermatitis starts from the inside. The inflammation is on the inside. So again, it could be if you're allergic to dairy, and if you notice it's a week where you have been eating ice cream, yogurt, anything in the dairy family, eggs, and you have been just excessive overboard. And then by the end of the week, you start noticing your scalp is extra itchy, it's red, it feels like pins and needles. There's a chance that you may have an allergy to dairy and it's manifesting on the scalp. So if you are a person that is allergic to dairy, or you may be insensitive to dairy, you may have to be a person that has to either limit or stop the amount of dairy that you're eating, or else it's going to continue to cause flare up on the scalp, and you will see the seborrheic dermatitis manifest. If you are a person, and I tell this to my clients, a lot of us like to wear protective hairstyles. We don't like to take those weaves out. We love to keep our braids for 10 months. We don't like to do anything because we're creatures of habit. Unfortunately, we're lazy. We want the fast fix, but we don't want to take the time to do the right thing once we get that fix. We don't want to maintain it. If you don't wash your hair, shampoo your hair, if you're using the wrong products, this can exacerbate it. So I tell my clients, even if you're protective styling, do not leave those protective styles in your hair for 10 weeks, especially if you suffer with seborrheic dermatitis. I cannot keep a protective style longer than 3 weeks. I cannot wear braids. At this point in my life, I waste more money getting my hair braided than style lasts, because at the end of 2 weeks, I have to take them out to shampoo my hair because my scalp it needs people who, like I said, if you're allergic to dairy, allergies, products, styling, trying to think of what else. Those are the main things that I see with seborrheic dermatitis. Weather, again. And again, you don't know you have it until it happens. So it's no test for it. It's no blood work you can draw for it. It's just something that happens and you don't know why.
Is this a kind of similar? I just typed in. Is this let me see, um, a little photo?
Is it yellow? Because it's coming up white on my end. Does it have a yellowish tinge to it?
I don't really. This doesn't look like the yellow.
If you Google it, you can see. You won't miss it. You won't miss it. I have a couple pictures that I can share. Well, obviously, we're live, but I can share with you of my scalp as well. Because I actually, when I got into this practice, I scoped myself. I put the microscope on myself because No one ever scoped me during flare-ups or when I went to the doctors. So I never knew what my scalp looked like until I got into trichology and I put the microscope on myself. And when I saw what my scalp looked like, I was mortified. I couldn't believe what my scalp looked like. If you Google seborrheic dermatitis, and I specifically say you can Google it and then Google an African American. That's not, if you got that looks like that came from me, that's not seborrheic dermatitis.
That's not it. That's not it.
A client, yes, that's just dandruff. No.
I liked when you did that.
Do I have a picture? I don't know if it's on my IG. I'll share it with you.
Okay, so I'll be able to show it to him. But we also have.
Yeah. You'll see. It's just as yellow as.
Well, I know how it looks, and it's very. For me, it's like a golden yellow or dirt.
Exactly.
But it looks more golden, and it can crystal-like and be thick and chunky. So.
When I had a flare up about a year ago, and it was probably the worst I ever had. And I put the scope on my scalp, and it looked just like that. It looked like crystallized yellow stuff sitting on my scalp. It wasn't even flaky at this point. It looked like crystals. It almost looked like cave. You ever been into a cave or seen pictures of the cave and you see the ice hanging down and it just looked like it's stuck? That's what it looked like on my scalp. And that was probably about the worst I think I've ever had it. And I know what caused it. We like ice cream cake in my family, and somebody had a birthday and the whole week I ate ice cream cake from Carvel's. And at the end of the week, my scalp looked like that.
That's very interesting because everything it works from the inside out. So when we go through stuff, it's inside out. So we have Candace Adams that says, if the inflammation starts on the inside, is it possible to suppress the inflammation with anti-inflammatory medications?
It is, but in this condition, it's not warranted because when you're using anti-inflammatory medications, typically you're using it for pain, arthritis. I'm just throwing some stuff out there. Gout. You're using anti-inflammatories because you're in a painful state. Typically in the medical field, that's what it's used for. It's not used to treat a scalp or dandruff condition. Most people who have seborrheic dermatitis do not complain of pain. Your scalp may be sensitive, but not enough for you to take an aspirin or a Tylenol or an Advil. So when you're leaning towards that, it's more of body pain. So if you're going to use, no, for seborrheic dermatitis is specifically because it's a condition of the scalp, you literally have to treat it I almost want to say naturally in homeopathy. Okay. Because no medication is going to stop your scalp from being inflamed. That's the thing. It is something internal that is going on and it's manifesting on the scalp. So again, if you hit your foot today, it's not going to manifest on your scalp. You're just going to feel it. Your foot's going to be sore. Your toe is going to be red, whatever. We bump our baby toe. You don't feel it on your scalp. You might feel it through your body, but it's not going to show up as a dandruff-like condition on your scalp. So to answer your question, no. But however, there are anti-inflammatory scalp products that are on the market that you can use that specifically generated for the scalp, I should say. But when you're talking about like an Advil or something like that, no, you can't use that for the way that it works. When you're talking about the scalp, it's sensitive because you have really an acid balance in production in the body. That's really what it is. Something is wrong in the body and it's letting you know, hey, I'm off balance, but I need for you to pay attention, but you don't know what it is. So to answer your question, we typically won't give an aspirin or Tylenol for seborrheic dermatitis.
Okay, but we know healing or just maintaining it, the inflammation has to subside at some point, because you can't get any type of relief if the inflammation is still visible.
Right.
I mean, if it's still going on, you've got to
You got
get the
to stop
inflammation
the
under
culture.
control.
Yes, and you have to, and people, they hate when I say this, so your listeners are probably going to hate. You have to stop it. You have to stop what you're doing that caused it. Like for me, or limit, I should say. I don't want to say stop, but limit. Like I like ice cream cake. I know I can't eat an ice cream cake 7 days straight. Now, maybe I can just have a piece, and I need to have a piece that day and be done with it and be at peace that I'm only going to have a piece. If I know that something is the trigger for me, then that means I can no longer have it, or I need to indulge just a smidgen of it. Because
Yeah,
at the end of the day, you don't want to, it's hard to stop doing the things that we do. So we have to limit. Now, being greedy and eating 7 pieces of ice cream cake a week, that's a bit excessive, but it's good.
yeah,
But at the end of the week, I was the one suffering because nobody else has this condition in my house. I'm the one who's now suffering.
yeah.
So is it worth me losing my hair? My scalp's on fire. I have no relief for 3 or 4 days. I, I like, is it worth it? No. So what do? I have a little sliver and I go on about my. That does not cause a sliver. But if I have a big old hot 7 days in a row, yes. So that's why I tell people you have to learn your trick. Um, because seborrheic dermatitis is manageable if you do the work to understand your triggers. You can go out here and buy Nizoral, Generac, any type of um, Sulfa, any of that. That's only going to mask the issue because you're not fixing the problem to begin
Okay. I think that is, I, you know, this is so
with.
interesting.
You're welcome.
Huh?
No,
No,
she was saying thank you. I was saying you're welcome, Candace.
let me say this. Yeah, Candace, thank you for at least, coming on in and asking the questions, because this is something that sometimes can be quite embarrassing, where people may not want to admit that they actually have a condition or a problem. And I noticed that my own scalp, sometimes depending on what I'm eating and what I am not doing in my own body, that will cause me a inflammation on my scalp, and will cause me to have, sometimes I get a buildup, and it looks like a little fungus. I mean, like a little ringworm. It gets brown.
Mm,
I notice that sometimes when I slack off the cheese or certain things, I know I'm like, wait a minute, you're not doing your vegetables, uh, you're not doing a lot of plant um, diets. You're
mhm.
not adding that into, and I can tell when my body screams a little bit, and then also there are times when I am inflamed myself, and the pores are wide open, and you have to be careful about what next product you put in that nestles in the follicle, that will worsen the
Yes,
situation.
yes.
Because, and sometimes I don't think it's good to even put a cellophane or color or anything. If that scalp is inflamed, or you're adding alcohol or anything, what'll happen is you're going to be miserable throughout that whole. You just shampooed your hair, but you're going to be so miserable because of the fact that the follicles were open. It received anything that wasn't good, and it inflamed and it closed, and then now it's like that inflammation is going on, and then it builds a little cast, almost like you had a relaxer and had some type of sores or scabs, or you got burned, even though you didn't, so can we talk about that? you know
Hmm. I don't. Okay, so when it comes to those medicated shampoos, I am not a big component of using them at all. Because as me being a nurse and knowing what medication is for, all medications eventually stop working. That's why when you go to the doctors, they're always swapping you from one pill to another. Something is going on and your body is not having it. You're not receptive to it. So when we're talking about over the counter shampoos and things, they mask the symptoms. So it may work for a day or two, and it might buy you a week, but after that, you're still going to be faced with the same issues. And your hair needs balance. Your hair follicles need balance. Anything that's too acidic, too alkalonic, your hair follicles is not going to like it. And with seborrheic, it creates a more acidic type of atmosphere for your scalp. So therefore, I'm not a big component because half people don't even know what they're treating. You don't know whether you have dandruff, a fungal infection, or seborrheic dermatitis. So you don't know what you're treating. All you saw was white flakes. So you ran out here and got, something with tea tree in it because your homegirl told you to get it, and you don't even know what it is. It may not necessarily be dandruff. You can actually have a fungal infection. You can actually have a yeast infection of the scalp, but you're treating it with something that you saw over the counter. So I'm not a big component of just going to the store buying what's on the shelf because you don't know what you're treating. Every time somebody has a dry scalp, the first thing they say is dandruff. It's not always dandruff. It's not always dandruff. And like you stated earlier, when your hair follicle is inflamed, when it's tired, when it's at its wit's end, it's going to shut off, it's going to close down, and it's going to fall out. It is what it is because there's a fine window of homeostasis that the hair follicles like. They don't want to be bothered. They don't want you putting a whole bunch of stuff on them. They just don't like it. And so when you disrupt that balance, they're going to shut off. They're going to die off. And they're going to die off a lot faster than they would have had you not did the things that you were doing that caused them to die off. So I'm not a component of that. I'm a little bit strict in my practice because I don't do relaxers and I don't do hair color. That's just me. That's just my personal feeling in my clinic because here I'm about hair care. I cannot successfully, for me, this is for me, I cannot successfully call me a hair care specialist or trichologist if I'm doing things that are damaging to the hair follicle. Now, yes, you can have a relaxer safely and go to someone that's actually doing it right and you don't have any issues. But when it comes to hair growth and regrowth, some people, what they fail to realize is after a while, your body is going to get too sensitive to some of those chemicals. Your hair is going to feel it first before you do. So for me, most of my clients, when they come in here, they are candidates for relaxers and hair color at a certain point because some of them come in with literally they're at the last stage before they don't have any more hair left. So I'm a lot stricter than some of the other trichologists out here because they are stylists and they still style hair and things like that. I'm strict, but I'll tell people I don't do any chemical services. I don't care if you came in here with the latest product on the market that doesn't require any developers or anything. I'm not using it because that's not my brand and that's not what I stand for. I'm going to treat you from the inside out. And I want you to preserve your hair. So eventually, you don't have to come back to me every week. You could just come back to me once a month for maintenance or every other week. But the majority of my clients that I see, they aren't candidates for chemical relaxers and hair color anymore. They just aren't. And even those that suffer with like psoriasis and things like that, you can't put chemicals on that. You're gonna irritate the scalp further than what it already is. I love hair color. I used to dye my hair all the time, but when I started with the dermatitis and didn't know what it was at the time, as I'm older now, I won't even touch hair color. I'm afraid my scalp is gonna do something weird, so I won't touch it anymore. And like I tell my clients, I'll try me before I try to win. But I don't even do it anymore. So to answer your question, for me, I'm very strict in my clinic. I'm probably one of the strictest trichologists out here because I just what's the point of me getting into a having healthy hair if we're going to re-damage it and it's going to fall out again? And then for some people, you go back to the same practice, your hair comes out again and it never goes back. Then what?
All right, look. Um, you got another question from Candace. So, can you see the question?
Barely.
Okay, I'll read it for you.
Um,
When your scalp flares up, how do you remove the buildup? Do you lift the buildup first with a comb? Do you apply oil to soften it prior to shampooing? Or do you rinse with warm water to soften the buildup to remove during the shampoo?
I don't do any of that. Well, I do. I do. Number one, you don't ever, ever, ever. And I know despite what everybody sees on Instagram and Facebook and whatever, TikTok, whatever you're on. For seborrheic dermatitis, you do not want to go in. Like if I came to you, my hair is dry. Obviously, it's been up in the style. I got gook on it, whatever the case may be. You do not want to take a comb and immediately part my scalp and start lifting. And the sebum has dried. So which means it's dry on my scalp, which means when you go to lift it, what we just discussed earlier, you could be lifting several strands of hair at one time. And depending on, and if you're somebody like me, I had patches that were this big throughout my scalp at one point in time in life. So imagine if you're pulling a patch here, a patch here, a patch here, a patch here. You're pulling out patches of hair at this point and attached to the sebum, the crust. I'm going to say crust. I know that's not correct, but I'm going to say crust. You don't ever want to go and just manually lift any type of crust straight off of somebody's scalp when they're dealing with seborrheic dermatitis. Because A, you're going to increase inflammation. You're going to pull the hair out. And then what you're going to do is, I just remember at the beginning, when you are lifting this crater or crust, underneath of it is another layer. It's another liquidy oil layer. Because remember, even though it's a crust on top, that sebum is still building underneath. So when you go lift, you still have another layer of sebum. Sebum doesn't stop producing just because of the crust. It's producing underneath the crust. So as you lift this crust, the hair that's still attached to the scalp is still going to be moist, it's still going to be oily. That's going to dry. That's going to dry. Like within the next day, that hair alone is going to be dry. So what I typically do, there is my solution that I come up with, and I use the hair in my clinic. And I'm a big component of natural pack. So I use a lot of essential oils. I went to aromatherapy school as well and became certified in aromatherapy because I wanted to use oils because a lot of my research was in homeopathic nursing and so what I did was I came up with my own solution. And when someone comes to me first time I'm doing a treatment, they have lots of buildup. I use this solution. So it's literally, I don't have any on me, but I make it on site. So when someone comes to me, I have a solution that I use. I paint it on the scalp with a paintbrush as if you were doing a relaxer. I sit them underneath of my steamer for about 15 minutes. I don't lift. So once they come up from the steamer, I put them underneath the shampoo bowl and I gently rinse their hair with warm. There is nothing I can see the crust come off, and I just take my finger and I feel through the scalp to see if there's any more crust or whatever you want to see throughout the scalp. And as I'm feeling, I'm looking. Because remember, when they're coming to me. I'm doing an exam prior to me doing any treatment. So I'm looking to see what areas are moving forward. So as I'm doing treatment, I can feel it was going to be the red light, the left. Then I'll repeat again. Okay. So I continue on with treatment. But absolutely under no circumstances does this like see on YouTube. Do not let that stuff. My mom didn't know any better, but also you create right area. The barrier is broken. There's definitely going to be. Now, what I can tell people is, if you don't have a solution, you just use this on the scalp. So let's take 15 minutes and then your treatments and your shampoo. That is what I recommend to people who aren't really well versed in using the treatment, things like that. But you have a client who has dandruff or seborrheic dermatitis. I would probably suggest going straight for essential oils. It's many factors with that. A lot of people are on medications, so essential oils will interfere with medications. So you have to know what your person is on and what you're taking, because you don't want to start essential oils infused into the body by way of the scalp. It absorbs through the skin. So if somebody's on a particular medication and you just use an essential oil, you can disrupt the mechanism of that medication. So you have to be careful when you're using essential oils. I know everybody loves it. They smell good. They're great. They work wonders. But if my client comes in and she's on a blood thinner, using an essential oil that could possibly potentiate that medication, that means make it work faster. I could be thinning her blood out a lot. That could be making her blood a little bit more thinner than what her doctor is recommending her. I don't want to say what's happening. When she goes out here and bumps her leg and starts bleeding, she could literally bleed out to death because of the essential oil that they use on her scalp. You have to be careful when you use an essential oil. So it's a lot of research into it. But if you just want something to use, because most people are allergic to it, I don't always say coconut oil because it makes my scalp work. My scalp don't like coconut oil. I can use it as a hot oil treatment, but I have to rinse it out. It's my scalp. So you can just use medicinal honey, warm it a little bit, put it on the scalp, put a plastic cap on the scalp, let it sit for 10-15 minutes, and then proceed to do that.
All right, Candace, I hope that you did she answer your question? I love it.
Yes, that
You
thing
remind me of me. I really I did not have to be on this show. I just and I wish that I we could have worked it out. But I'm loving it because I preach a lot of stuff, and just to hear, I was so excited about you, but just to hear someone who actually makes you be accountable
yes.
for these things, and who gives, I'm not just, sometimes I think I'm just talking and preaching, but now the minister has to sit down and be taught something. So I am so glad that you're doing that. And so Candace says, "Oh, I didn't know essential oils can interfere with medications." And she
Yes.
did say that you answer my questions, because sometimes with essential oils, I noticed that it can cause a buildup all by itself, because there's only so much product that can go up under the scalp, and there's just so much product that if it's piling on top of each other and it has nowhere to go, then it becomes, it can become inflammation too. Um, and I experienced that, and I'm like, I put it on there, and it's supposed to help, but why I'm burning, so
Right.
yeah, why
And
I'm
some
burning.
people don't, know the correct ratio. Like everybody is on, let's do tea tree oil and lavender oil. But what you don't realize is that burns your skin. If you don't have the correct ratio of drops to whatever product you're putting it in, you could burn somebody's skin. You don't want your client coming back to you 2 days later and said, I think you burnt my skin. And you could gently burn somebody's skin if you're not diluting that essential oil properly. And then for some people, again, it's a medical factor when you're also using them, because people who have liver issues, they don't discrete medications. Remember, what you're putting in your body, whether it's by your mouth, by your skin, people have to get rid of that. If somebody doesn't have good liver or kidneys, you start using essential oils and they don't readily excrete these medications and things, you could cause a buildup within the body. And then these people can go toxic. And then they're sitting in the ED because you didn't use too much tea tree oil on the scalp. So it's like it's a fine balance with using them. Yes, they're great, but man, every oil and herb is not meant to be used on every bottle, despite what the bottle says in the store. Like
That's so true. And when I hear people making a comment saying, well, it don't matter which one I use, I just get whatever's cheapest or whatever. And it's like, that's why we have so much hair loss, because some people go by not the ingredients on the back end or what's important on the front end of the beginning of the ingredients. They go by what's cheaper or how it smells, and not intentional about what's good for them. So
yeah. And
I,
if you buy essential oils cost. Like I will say, I have probably about 600 bottles of essential oils, and I spent roughly about $5,000 on my essential oil collection. If you buy a bottle of essential oil at your local beauty supply store, 9 times out of 10, that's not a real essential oil. Just a little bottle of tea tree oil raw. If you get it from your correct distiller, it comes with paper. It has its own DNA. Like you can literally look it up and see what tree they picked it from, what region, what number batch it came from. If you ain't getting that, you're not getting a pure oil. You're getting a knockoff of what somebody created.
correct.
And a lot of my clients, I have to tell them that. How much you spent for that oil? She was like, oh, that was $6. That's not true oil. A true bottle of tea tree oil alone is pricey. It's pricey. It's very pricey. And my husband even goes to my distiller and picks it up, or he'll order. And he was like, that vanilla, and I ordered about a 10-liter bottle of vanilla, and it was $130.
Yeah.
I use it sparingly.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I know it all costs. I mean, with me and yourself having a hair care line, it is not, a lot of people like, well, I can get this cheaper or whatever, but it all costs. So Candace Adams says, this is good information. I knew it
Thank
would
you,
be.
Candace.
I
And
knew
then
it would be.
And then when people have hair care lines, I know I didn't get to talk much about mine, but at least we know what we're putting in our stuff. If you call me and say, I use your shampoo, I'm itching or something's funky's going on, I can literally look at my bottle and tell you what I think may have caused your intense itching. It might have been something that I put in it. It could be maybe this something that I use. But when you go and you buy from people, like, if they don't get a deserved product or a product from me, but you go into anybody, you don't know what you're getting. And again, I'm not a component of, a lot of these products have fillers in it. And then they have a lot of preservatives in it.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother conversation of why you have seborrheic dermatitis. The fillers, the stuff. I mean, think about it. When I still have stuff. I'm not gonna lie. I still got stuff from probably 13 years ago, just here in the clinic, because I show people. I bought this bottle 13 years ago, and it still works. Why do you think it still works? It's the preservatives in it. You know how much preservatives you have to use to keep a bottle of shampoo for 10 years or 5 years?
I mean, it's a big difference. But I want y'all to give her a warm clap. And I just thank you.
Thank you for having me. This is fun.
Oh my God. Thank you.
I wish I was there with you, with the excitement and the fun.
You know, I love that part. And but we come to the part where Candace is clapping too. And so
Thank you, Candace.
we come to the part where we do giveaways, but they have to earn it. So they have to ask a question. I always do the question if you can't. If I ask the guests to, can you think of anything you want them to remember? Hi, Virginia Hall. She said, great information. But is there anything, or do you want me to ask a question for you, boy? Is there a question that you want them? Because we got 3 winners but they got to get the question right, and you have to approve. And say,
that's me on the hot seat.
Yeah, you have to approve it. You have to say, that's it, or that's not it.
Okay. Then you want me to do the question, or you going to do the question?
Well, I try to get y'all to do it first. And if you don't do it, then I'll do it. So.
Let's see. Does anybody remember the name of my clinic? I think I said it twice.
The name of your what?
Clinic.
Yes,
I might have said it 2 or 3 times. I know I said it 2 times in the beginning.
Yes. Don't y'all look up nothing.
That might be the only way they're gonna get it, because I only said it twice. I think 3, but I know for sure twice.
Well, Candace might get it, but Candace might get it.
But you know what? Candace has been here since the beginning, and she asked a really good question. So I like that question that she gave that was about the seborrheic dermatitis and how I treat it, about the lifting and something else. Like, her question was about 3 or 4 parts. So I like that question. I like, because it kind of showed that she thought about what I said and was able to connect. Well, if you're saying don't scratch it, and how do you get rid of it? And that's the critical thinking part. How do you get rid of it? The trick is you don't. You manage it.
Okay, Candace, say, what is the second question?
All right. What is the condition that I suffer from? Okay, who is that? Michelle. Okay, Michelle got 1. Is that Michelle? Yeah, Michelle got 1.
So that was the first question.
That was the first question.
So
the second
question, Michelle got it.
Technically, Michelle got it.
Michelle got it.
Michelle. So are we going about who got the first question and that's it? Or is that like
do a second one so we can get 2 more winners? But Michelle did get it.
Well, Michelle got it. So she's a winner. So I would have to say she's a winner. So the second one was, what's the condition I suffer from?
Okay, y'all, that's it for the questions. Y'all better get that right.
That'll be it.
Now, she told y'all her condition.
I think what we've been talking about the whole. Who's that? Virginia. Virginia is a specific kind of dermatitis, because dermatitis is just a blanket term that we use for inflammation of the skin. Dermatitis is just inflammation of the skin. You can have that on your knee, foot, arm, back, leg, anywhere you have skin. So technically, you're right, but you're only 50% right.
She said, Renisi said, I came late. You gonna get it. You
So
know,
y'all should get this.
yeah.
But dermatitis is the second part. But again, it's that's just the general term for skin. That's Candace. You're right.
I don't know why none of them didn't get that. So,
Eczema.
that's all you've been talking about.
There it is. Yeah.
Okay. Michelle got it and Candace got it.
Well,
So
but dermatitis is all of that is under that category of inflammatory skin conditions. So you can have eczema and seborrheic dermatitis, but we're specifically talking about the scalp. So you can have scalp eczema, but it's not called scalp eczema. That's the thing. It's the okay. So yes, Candace and Michelle. So look me up, inbox me, and send me your contact information, name, address, email, address, all that good stuff, and I'll send you out a kit.
okay, let's try to do it like this.
Or however you want to
Give
do it.
me give me so they can see how to inbox you. Give me the so I can spell it out and then post it.
Okay, it's the Trichology Nurse Suite. Or if you Google my name or my name on Facebook, or if they click the post. Matter of fact, if they click the post, they should be able to get right to me.
Yeah, because
That might be the easiest. Even if y'all click the post, I'm tagged in her post.
okay, I'm gonna give you her Instagram too. So her IG, you guys is TNSSUITE,
Yes.
and
And it's the same on Facebook. Facebook, Twitter, and IG is TNS Suite.
so I put that. Is that right? Is that your IG TNS?
Yes, yes.
Okay,
Yep.
so y'all need to message her.
Yes. Message me your info, Candace and Michelle.
Okay, now we're gonna keep this rolling here, and we're gonna end the show. And I'm gonna keep it up. So she told y'all what to do, and
So either IG or Facebook, send me your DM, your information, and I'll get that kit out to you.
okay, you guys. And then also, what we want to do is you all in the chat, just these are the two winners. So we're going to congratulate them.
Yeah. Thank you guys for the questions. Congratulations.
And we want to thank our special guest. First of all, we want you to come back at a later date because we have some more things to cover. This is I love this. I love this. So we want to keep it going because we want people to fall in love with their hair and scalp all over again, to come out of the weave and get back into their glory. And understand their hair, their texture, their scalp, and their holistically what triggers inflammation and what triggers things that causes the hair loss in their body. Is that okay?
That is quite fine with me.
Okay. So thank you guys so much. Everybody's thanking you for coming out. And you guys, we also have a lot to cover. I'm going to go live tomorrow because we also are giving away dessert products and we're getting you to submit videos and we're going to show you how to do it. So I'm going to go live tomorrow at 7 o'clock to tell you how to do that. Go over to Deserve Healthy Hair and then I'm going to announce it of how to actually get all these products. But until now, we want to welcome our special guest. She is so beautiful. and look at her skin just glowing. I mean, you just want to,
And I don't wear makeup. Like I wear very little makeup, and that's
you
what somebody
don't need it.
very little.
But you don't need it. So
Thank you.
everybody is saying congratulations to everybody. They're
Yeah.
thanking you. They love the show. We're gonna have you back. We need people like you on the map, and I just want to stay in touch and network with you
Yeah.
as well. So thank you all. Enjoy your Sunday and keep God first, and everything else will follow. And this is it. I hate to end it because she's so informative. I'm so excited. So, but we've got to end the show. So remember, everybody deserves a second chance at healthy hair.
Talk hair, let's talk hair, talk hair to me, talk hair to me, talk hair to me, talk hair to me. Let's talk hair.